Welcome to the Give for Grouse podcast, dedicated to giving the ruffed grouse a voice by promoting sound wildlife management, advocating for forest health, and championing all things conservation. Now let's get to the show with Cody Altizer and Eric Long.
Welcome back to the Give for Grouse podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Cody Altizer. Your other host is Eric Long. Eric Long, say hi.
Hello.
How is Eric today?
Disappointed that it was the myth, the legend.
I didn't
Oh,
sell
we're going to
you.
have to start over. We're going to have to start over.
Yeah, rewind.
No, man. How's Cody today?
Cody is right as rain. I tell you, it is a beautiful day here.
Mm-hmm.
We are like 20 degrees above average.
Well, that's not good.
It's like 80 degrees. We went from literally one of the coldest stretches of weather in January and February.
Yeah.
In a very long time. We were 20 degrees below average for a long time. And then we just reversed the trend. And now we're plus 20. I would like us to even out a little bit, but.
Yeah, same here. We went from 20 inches 2 foot of snow to peepers are out. Mm-hmm. It's so weird. You walk outside to let the dog out and you're expecting that cold air just like go through, freeze your nostrils and all that stuff. Cause it was a horrible below zero weather. And you're still not ready for that warmer air and hearing peepers. You're expecting this cold shock, in your pajamas, but, no, things are good, man. I heard some woodcock peening, last night. They're back doing their thing. And, we had a successful, hatch, clutch, etc. last year. And, hopefully we see another one of those. And, no, man, spring is here. The grouse is starting to drum on his log. Mm-hmm. Going to get in the blind, film that movie star again for a while. I know you were out today doing some findings and searchings.
I was out and about. My luck filming grouse isn't what yours is. I'm trying to find some birds this spring. I would love to have. It's funny. I was thinking. I didn't tell you this. I was thinking. Well, I was walking around on this piece of property this morning, listening. I was like, I'd really like to have 3 different spots. I was like, well, hell, I'd like to have 1. Like, listen to me. I'm about to get one before I have 3. But I'm trying to find some birds to film just because, as I have said, probably on every episode, I just love to watch them. But yeah, I went on a piece of property this morning where there's no shortage of grouse for sure. This property is heavily managed, mainly with fire. And I heard one drumming. It was a windy morning. I only heard him drumming once. Flushed another. Almost stepped on top of a woodcock. I imagine here in a couple weeks when they really start doing it all day, every day, I won't be able to get away from them. I just need to find one in a filmable situation. And I'm fingers crossed because I didn't get to last year. Yeah. All my grouse filming was in 24. 25 I struck out, and I'm hoping to find some birds this year to set up. And I would love nothing more. Just sit in the blind, take a book, read, watch, film.
Oh, it's so therapeutic.
Yeah.
So therapeutic. And like you mentioned today, we were talking on the phone earlier to this, and you know what, you were absolutely right when you said that you and I are blessed to have the ability to be able to find these things, sit in the blind. And that's what started all this, and that's what we're trying to do, because once you experience this, there's nothing that you won't do look what it created with us, so.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but homework time. Altizer, what we got going?
Number 1 is our billboard campaign, which we got a nice little bump of donations this past week. We have got donations from California.
No way.
Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, North Carolina, several in Virginia. Well, the Virginia is cool, obviously, but it's where the bill. I'm hoping we get donations. But California, Iowa, Illinois, North Carolina, I think is super cool because it just speaks to people caring and wanting to make a difference. So we got a nice little bump of donations this past week. We're right at 70%. We're just shy of 7K. So need 3 more to hit our 10K goal. Truly, every little bit makes a difference. We have gotten 4-figure donations. We've gotten donations in the $10 range. All of it has added up to where we are now. All of it will add up to accomplish the goal. So if you have any spare change in your pocket and want to throw it to a worthy cause, we believe, to support the Ruffed Grouse and to support forest management and logging, we will happily take your money to put up a billboard that has this Ruffed Grouse just proudly standing on a log and says logging equals healthy forests, healthy wildlife. That is what we exist to advocate for. So habitatva.org, please donate if you're willing and able. Homework item number 2, stickers, Chippendale. Do you know what Chippendale's from? Rescue Rangers. Chippendale.
No, dude, I was like out working. I wasn't watching cartoons.
I don't even remember what that. I think my brother and I watched it. Chippendale and a nameless Chippendale and the nameless quail.
Yeah.
Just
rhyming. Stop. Where is Chippendale from? He didn't say where they're from.
Rescue Rangers. I guess it's.
I thought you were like, yeah.
No, it's a song.
I don't know.
Chippendale Rescue Rangers. It's these little chipmunks.
Yeah.
Okay. 2022 film. I remember it when I was a kid. I didn't know they made a movie recently.
Oh, okay. Well,
there we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, stickers, Chippendale and the nameless quail. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It is that simple. Just leave us a 5-star rating or review. Send us a screenshot to prove to us that you did it with your address. And now that we have 2 stickers, we ask a little bit more from you. You got to let us know which one you want. You want a grouse with a chainsaw? It's springtime.
Move your hand up. There you go. Show the drip torch. Drip torch.
It's springtime and burn season, so we got a bobwhite quail holding a drip torch. Let us know which one you would like. Grouse chainsaw, bobwhite quail drip torch. Yeah. All we need from you is a 5-star rating and review and your address.
Yeah, and show on Instagram or Facebook where you're putting your sticker. I mean, a lot of people mention putting on their chainsaw helmets or burn stuff and what have you. Love to see where you stick these damn things other than your personal body parts, but that'd be great.
Right. Somebody's going to get it.
Yeah, leave those out, you know, or just send them to Cody. I don't know, but but yeah, no, I'd be interested to see where these things are landing. Right,
for sure. Cool. I like to see them in action.
Yeah, right. So, but today we got a special guest. Not that our other guests aren't special, but today we have Mark Hatfield from the Ruffed Grouse Society. Correct?
Mark Hatfield from the Ruffed Grouse. I call them RGS. I hope I don't get in trouble. I always forget about the Woodcock.
The poor Woodcock.
I know.
Come on, man.
RGS and AWS, Ruffed Grouse Society, and American Woodcock Society. Mark Hatfield is his name. Chief Conservation and Operations Officer is his title. We've talked with Mark, you and I, privately, a handful of times. He's new to his role with RGS and AWS, and we've just kind of talk back and forth to get familiar with each other and our separate organizations and see what we can do together to best move the needle. And it was always on the books to have him come on the podcast, and that's where we are today. And I'm hopeful that our podcast today, this conversation and episode, and it leans on us to ensure that it is this way, but not so cookie cutter. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
yeah.
RGS is RGS, and they're, you know, the voice for the Ruffed Grouse Society and forest management. And we don't want it to be just another episode where we advocate and you get cookie cutter political BS answers where we got to log and we got to advocate. Well, we know all that. Like, let's peel back some layers and let's learn about what really needs to happen. Learn about what RGS and AWS really does behind the scenes to enact some real change for both species.
Yeah. Well said, Cody. I think with that being said, let's get after it.
Mr. Mark Hatfield, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Good as gold, right as rain. Appreciate you coming on. This It's beautiful here in Virginia. I don't know what you're in South Carolina,
I'm
Mark.
I'm in South Carolina, so man, we have got peach trees are in bloom and we've got daffodils blooming. I mean, it's birds are getting ready to start gobbling here.
Mm,
Um, so spring is here.
Are
it
you
is here.
guys in a fire weather warning? I mean, I know it's dry down there by
There's
Alabama,
people, we're actually
Florida.
getting quite a bit of burning done around here in the
Okay.
county that I'm in. I'm just outside of Augusta, Georgia,
Okay.
close to the Savannah River. And
Okay.
there's been smoke in the air pretty much for the past 2 or 3 weeks. People are really starting to crank it up.
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha.
You
And
know.
scratching the itch. We did a burn. I hadn't told you this yet, Eric. We did a little patch clear cut burn yesterday afternoon on our place. We're starting to scratch the itch, but it's it's that time of year. Daffodils here are blooming. I heard a grouse drumming this morning. Almost stepped on a woodcock. It's funny. We had a hellacious winter here, January and February. There's still just solid chunks of ice, but we went straight from winter right into almost
Yeah.
early summer. But
Yeah, I've seen a few woodcock around. They've been painting and sky dancing a little bit here in some of the fallow fields and stuff. So I've got one that shows up on my property here. Not every year, but I pick them up probably once every other year. So it's a good time of year for sure.
that's it.
Yeah, I was
There's
telling
nothing that
Cody.
says. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was telling Cody we because woodcock usually come end of February into March, mostly into February, and nothing, 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 nothing. I've been going out and listening in the evenings and at night, and nothing. And last night, beautiful night, still warm, stars, and nothing. I woke up this morning, let the new puppy out, and it was just on. They were peening so much. It was just like, well, hell, here
Mm,
you are.
Yeah, they
Well,
made that flight.
yes, they did. Yes, they did. But anyway,
good deal, Mark. Yeah, well, in our introduction, we gave a quick rundown of you, Mark. And we're right on brand with it being spring and talking woodcock and talking grouse. But Mark, before we get into the nitty of the gritty, the nitty gritty of the podcast, give everybody a rundown of who you are personally and your role with Ruffed Grouse Society.
Yeah, well, again, I appreciate you both, Cody and Eric, for bringing me on today to talk grouse and hopefully some woodcock. Mark Hatfield, I'm the Chief Conservation and Operations Officer for the Ruffed Grouse and American Woodcock Society. I am new to this organization. I've been with this organization for just over 6 months. Um, Prior to joining RGS AWS, I spent nearly 21 years with the National Wild Turkey Federation, helping deliver conservation work, build relationships with state wildlife agencies, focus on policy, help support the wild turkey research program. So, kind of a jack of all trades within the conservation department. But prior to joining there, I grew up in Kentucky originally, just south of Louisville. Went to school at Murray State University for my undergraduate and master's degree. Went out west and worked for Ducks Unlimited doing some waterfowl research. Ended up doing some black-footed ferret and prairie dog work in Montana,
mm,
rattlesnake work out there as well. And then
mm,
went to Arizona Game and Fish and trapped bald eagles and trapped pronghorn and bats, turkeys, owls, all kinds of random stuff. And then ended up wanting to come back to the Southeast, and that's where I ended up with the Turkey Federation. So I live in South Carolina now. Not grouse territory, but we definitely have some woodcock around. And probably a reason for me to be getting another bird dog for some woodcock.
mm.
As I've been getting pressure from my colleagues now of where's my pointing dog out, not my lab. And then married, I've got a son that's be 14 in March, and so he's fired up and begging me to go on all these grouse trips and go chase grouse. So should be fun. I'm looking
Mm,
forward to it, and great organization. Glad to be on board and learning a lot.
that's awesome. We've talked, privately, the three of us on the phone, but I was not aware of that resume that you just
No,
shared with us.
you left that. I
That
thought
is
you just worked at
impressive.
McDonald's. I don't.
A little north, south, east, and west, and all the
Yeah,
critters in
I
between.
think I
That's
lived in
awesome.
5 states in 2 years, out right outside of graduate school, and then like I said, I've had a chance. NWTF was a great experience. Just so proud of what we were able to do there. Trapped turkeys in Mexico and worked pretty
Hmm.
much nationwide on stuff. Helped bring the Goulds wild turkey back to the United States. So that was kind of a neat endeavor to do that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then really focused on, how do we impact conservation at scale? And
Mm,
so learned a lot from there. And again, just felt like it was a time for me to, I've known Ben Jones for a long time personally and then professionally. And then, man, just there was an opportunity to come on board to work with our members and him and staff, and I loving it.
good deal.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad
So
you're
how long
bringing
have?
that experience and expertise uh, to
Yeah.
ruffed grouse. So we'll jump into it, Mark, if you don't mind. And we've asked foresters, biologists, or we've asked the two biologists we've had on, one with the state of Virginia, one with the state of Ohio, for a very honest answer. It's an honest question that we feel deserves an honest answer. And if you could just kind of speak to Appalachia, Ohio to PA down to North Georgia. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say ruffed grouse are doing in Appalachia?
Man, y'all are coming out swinging. Um, I'm going to say it's the lower, it's probably below five, and that's probably varying amongst the states because Appalachia is going to cover that geography. There's states that are, there's grouse there, right? And you still get this relic, like I saw one, and that's the talk of the coffee shop, right? Because they saw one or they one that crossed the road 2 years ago. And so, and that we shouldn't be satisfied with that answer. And honestly, I don't think we should be satisfied with any of where we're at with the states within Appalachia. Um, I think as you go into this, you get some pockets that are going to be doing well. I think Pennsylvania has got a great culture. But most recently here, they've been able to expand and ensure that grouse remains a small game opportunity in and around Thanksgiving to steward that tradition. I think that's a huge opportunity and win there. Ohio, you know, um, man, it's hanging on.
Mm,
It's not, they're getting ready to, Eric, as you probably know, and both of you all know, they've got this, they're trying to work through this structure and trying to keep some quota opportunities available for grouse hunting, but then they're going to be closing some other counties and stuff. So that's not a great thing, but we commend the agency for keeping some entry points into grouse so it's not completely out of sight, out of mind. Um, you know, North Carolina, I think probably is going to have a little bit of an uptick if we can get some good weather because of the destruction and the disturbance we've seen through Hurricane Helene there in western North Carolina. And, that extends even to eastern Tennessee and even to some to Kentucky. So that's a benefit because it was a large scale district, disturbance event that occurred, which is where we know grouse and woodcock and many forest birds need that disturbance. And that's something we're missing from our historical, you know, forest. So I'm going to say below five. Some states I'm going to say probably two or three.
mm,
And that's probably subjective. Some people are going to say it's one right across the board, but I do
yeah.
think there are some benefits. But yeah, I mean, we're still seeing. I mean, woodcock are declining, grouse are declining. And we have to find that trend. But probably the trend that hurts me the most, that pains me the most, that's really going to handcuff us, that was taking away a tool for grouse, is forest industry infrastructure. We're losing these small scale timber
Mm,
companies, these abilities to manage our fiber and our timber. Once that is gone, you know, we are going to be solely responsible or solely dependent upon those large scale, disturbance events.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and that the consolidation of the market, that's certainly a red flag. I appreciate the honest answer. We'll put it sub five. A follow up question to that, and I hope it is the inverse of that first answer to the first question. As an organization, scale of 1 to 10, at what urgency would you say you guys are operating at to turn the tide?
Oh, we're pushing 9 or 10. We're
Good.
we're trying to become, I think, and I say that because of my freshness within the organization. But, you know, Ben Jones, our current CEO, the board, our national board of directors, they have been taking and giving us a lot of flexibility to be aggressive coming out of the gates with this, with my addition, not to pat myself on the back, but my addition, Carl Malcolm, our vice president of conservation, coming on board with 15 years with the U.S. Forest Service and just a dynamic colleague that just exercises leadership, that empowers staff to do stuff. I feel like they've doubled down on and given us, this, and we recognize there's a challenge, but we're not shying away from it. We know that grouse populations are not trending upwardly. We know that woodcock populations are not. But man, just I feel like we're on the cusp of doing some really great things.
Hmm.
Well, not. I know we're going to do some really great things. I mean, that's not to be boastful or overconfident,
No,
but
not at all. Hmm.
we've got a lot of great staff, young, energetic foresters around the country. And hopefully, with my addition and Carl's addition, we can bring in some contacts, with the U.S. Forest Service and with the state wildlife agencies, and we can start to, you know, um, move the needle on some of this work. Because some of
Hmm.
that just takes relationships and trust, and all of that stuff came with us when we, came from NWTF and the Forest Service.
For sure.
Um,
Hmm.
but man, I couldn't be more excited every day to come up to get to work on some of this stuff. Um,
Good. You mentioned, being right on the cusp of some big, and it's funny you say move the needle. That's something we say often, Eric and I both, all the time, is to move the needle. Can you share any specifics behind what you feel like you're doing some meaningful work, being on the cusp of some real change? What are some specifics that you could point to that of some work you guys are doing?
yeah, so there's a couple things, but the first thing I want to do is want to also we're going to be doing some great things, but in the past year, we went back and we tallied kind of what our impact is as an organization across the range of our footprint. And so, in the past since 2022, we've been able to directly impact over 500,000 acres of habitat
Nice.
throughout the range of grouse and woodcock. And so that is something that we're very proud of. But I will also put a caveat in there. We're not going to be this acreage machine coming out of the gates. We're just not going to be. But I would say that we can be very precise, very nimble in what we're doing, and potentially hit the most impactful acres for us, for hunters and for the outdoor enthusiasts we have. That's a so that's a highlight of what we're doing or what we've done. But I think moving into this, we've got speaking specifically within Appalachia, we're working very diligently with the Tennessee Natural Resource Conservation Service in providing technical assistance and private landowners assistance to forestry work in eastern Tennessee, in and around, and coupling that on the Cherokee National Forest for work there for forest health, watershed health. We're in some early conversations right now with North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and the U.S. Forest Service, figuring out how organizationally we can show up to support their work in and around the Hurricane Helene recovery efforts. Hurricane Helene went through a year and a half ago. Um, there's, good neighbor agreements that are going on between North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and U.S. Forest Service at a tune of 280, $290 million going into Western North Carolina to look at bridge, road infrastructure. Probably about half of that's going to be engineering work, but then the other half of that's going to be forestry restoration work. These
Nice.
watersheds were completely decimated with the amount of rain that occurred um, there. So that's one piece. Um, we've got a good but small but vocal group in Ohio. We've got 3 chapters there in Ohio that are starting to look at this engagement process for maintaining and hopefully the season to remain open in Ohio, like I mentioned earlier. So there's a lot of things, great work going on. And then, of course, we're working with Pennsylvania Game Commission on increasing in Pennsylvania Forestry Bureau of Forestry to increase management on state game lands and looking at ways to leverage work with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation in North Carolina, in PA, to do work in conjunction with them that's going to benefit not only grouse, but also elk and or deer. So
Mm.
it's and that's just a snapshot. I mean, you go into the um, Northeast and Vermont, New Hampshire, we've got great work going on up there on the Green Mountains. We just hired a forest conservation director in the Northeast, and we're looking to expand in the Southeast specifically, and where most of the woodcock are residing in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas.
Mm.
Hmm.
There's an acronym, and two of your foresters, Spencer Marshall and Cooper Least, who I'm a big fan of, have a good relationship with both of those guys. In the off chance that they're listening, I want to give them their flowers. And we've talked about this. It's a deliberate decision making. Do you know what I'm talking
Dynamic
about?
forest restoration.
Dynamic forest restoration. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because I feel like that is something you guys do very well. It's not just these random acts of conservation, but exactly what the name implies, very focused and intentional forest
Yeah. So
management.
when you think about this dynamic for, land ownership behavior or land ownership patterns are really driving a lot of the decisions that are going on within forestry industry across the East. It's becoming more parcel, it's smaller scale, more, we're losing connections to the land. Then you throw in where we're losing forestry industry and the ability to manage. So what we have to do is we have to manage forest at a larger scale. And so we need to ensure that we understand how we're managing not just one parcel of land, but multiple parcels of land. So we can actually manage this so they can become complementary to one another.
Mm.
And you need to understand those pieces. So that dynamic forest restoration or block management is really just trying to look at a larger picture of forest management as opposed to looking at them all as individual efforts. And so when you can start to do those pieces and you start to piece together this piece of public land and private lands, and you're knowing the management that's going on each side of those, it allows you to have a greater biological impact for the birds and its ability to drive more and to concentrate forestry industry into that. So you could potentially bring and drive fiber uh, and fiber resources to that industry.
Mm. I love that. I mean, I'm sure it does some phenomenal work, but how you just described it, you mentioned it earlier, implementing conservation at scale. And I think, as we all know, to really turn the tide for ruffed grouse populations, I mean, it has to happen at scale. Just the nature of the species. I can have 100 acres of phenomenal ruffed grouse habitat, but if it's in an island of thousands upon thousands of acres of mature state park looking woods, then it's still phenomenal wildlife habitat, but for ruffed grouse specifically, it's not really moving the needle, as we have said. So I like that big picture approach and taking public land and how it ties into private land and how it's all interconnected. I forget who told that to me first, Spencer or Cooper. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, yes, I love it. Keep it
Yeah, I
up.
mean it sounds overly technical, right? But it's really just trying to manage at scale, manage a larger blocks so we can make sure
Mm.
that we're understanding all the pros and cons of such, and trying to, you know, grouse have such site fidelity within, their smaller home range, but then you throw in woodcock and we've got this migration going along all of Appalachia for the eastern woodcock migration work. They're telling us pinpointing exactly where we need to be doing work because of
Right.
their stopovers and the transmitters and stuff. So we've got to find ways to leverage that so we can also hit the grouse needs, but also, man, can we concentrate our work into this area and manage that forest at scale?
Mm.
Yeah. Um, Mark, you kind of answered the question that I was going to ask a couple times already, but I just want to circle back around to it. I mean, due to, today's timber market, and you mentioned as well as, those mom and pop and smaller operations that we're still, they do move the needle. I mean, due to the markets and stuff like that, I mean, how do we continue putting good habitat on the ground? Or, I mean, do we, in the meantime, pivot and just try to maybe advocate and educate people on, forest ecology and what have you? I mean, how do we, how do we sustain in the meantime while things figure itself out?
Well, I think one of the bigger things that we've got to do is I think there is a overall misconception. I won't say misunderstanding, but I think it's a misconception of what good forestry is.
Hmm.
And so I think there is a lack overall, not saying that there's not pockets of this, but I do think there is an overall lack of social license or social acceptance to the type of forestry work that needs to be done to restore our eastern forests to be healthy, working, and operational. I mean, the eastern forests that we have today are not like the eastern forests we had 100 years ago or
Blue.
200 years ago. We had chestnut blight came through. That was a ecosystem overhaul to Appalachia.
Mm.
We have now we're dealing with the woolly adelgid. We're dealing with um, sudden oak disease. We're dealing with these other pieces that are now. We went from a very diverse. We used to have this disturbance on the landscape that was natural, right? Now we've gone into this. We've harvested. We've fired, done fire suppression, and so it's not the same forests. And so the scale in which needs to be done is not going to be potentially socially accepted for what we need. And so, and it's a misconception and it's misunderstood about what sound forestry practices are. Eastern forests must be disturbed to maximize, its health. Wildlife in the east, all the species that are dependent upon disturbance, I won't say all, the majority of species that are dependent upon disturbance are declining. Ruffed grouse, woodcock, golden-winged warbler, whippoorwill, other forestry related birds, even grassland related birds that we're not seeing the fire regimes that go through this. We don't have those large scale disturbance events. So we have to educate people and share what this looks like. And then we have to demonstrate it, get the results so we can continue to build social license. But we have to do so in a really unprecedented time because we need to increase these mom and pop small scale forestry efforts. They're declining quicker than we are replacing them.
Hmm.
And so it's hard to speed up because then you get out of balance. And so it's a challenge. But I do think social license and social acceptance of logging practices is is at a low for
Yeah.
us, and I don't think it's the fact that people are opposed to them. I don't think they understand them.
Mm.
Yeah. That's
Use
for
this.
sure.
Use our platform right now, Mark. I mean, not to put you on the spot, but I asked our last guest was John Keene, a forester from Ohio, and the conversation we had with John is kind of following a similar vein that we're on right now, and it's we can have the conversation over and over again with 10 different people, and it follows this same theme, but it's a lack of education, a lack of understanding. And again, I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but use our podcast, our platform to sell it, to sell forest management, what a healthy young forest ecosystem looks like, how it benefits wildlife, how it benefits rural economies from the
Hmm.
logging in the mill perspective, and how it stimulates the economy. And again, I'm going to kind of ramble a little bit so you can try to get your thoughts and form
Yeah,
an
no,
answer, but sell it to anybody listening, because as you said, it's a lack of understanding, a lack of education, and that's what we exist to do, is to educate and inform.
yeah, so there's a couple key points here, and the first thing I think we have to do as a organization, as constituents, as owners of the public land in the East, and just the wealth of private landowners that we have, is we have to restore structural diversity within the forest. We just have to. I mean, we have to have young forest patches. We have to have age classes of distribution that are next to, spatially and temporally different, but adjacent to, because we have to have that connectivity. And we have to also have some shrubland components. It's not all open, closed canopy. It's transition zones. Um, and so the first thing we need to do is we have to restore structural diversity. And so that takes, for us to get to young forest patches, means we need to either increase disturbance on the landscape. We can't control the weather. We can't control natural disasters, but we can increase timber harvest at different scales and locations within this. Um, we have to then, so that's the structural diversity. Sh Short, medium, high. We have to have shrublands. We have to have grasslands, shrublands, that component, and we have to have the ability for animals to have access to all of those. Um, we have to also think about when and where to introduce disturbance to have the greatest impact. Um, Active forest management. What does active forest management look like? Um, are we, prescribed burning? We were talking about that before we ever started recording. Prescribed burning has a role in hardwood components, right? It also has in grassland components. Woodcock utilize fallow agricultural fields that have been burned in Appalachia for stopovers and for painting and for their sky dance. Man, if we're not burning that, we're not getting that forb cover, and we're not creating that ground connectivity to where these birds can move around and hide. We're not going to, even though it looks like it, we're not going to have those birds there. Um, we all chase grouse in the fall, right? But finding a little grouse that can actually navigate the forest floor that's choked out with invasive species, or choked out with, thick thatched grass. That's
Mm.
not how those little bumblebees run around.
Right. Yeah.
They need to be able to get around. They need to be able to. So you've got to have that open understory, and you can do so through disturbance. And then we actually have to just steward our forests to, create and support that market. Um, we have to then add to some complexity of our forests. So we've talked about structural diversity, right? So, early, medium, and late succession. We've talked about the disturbance factors that we need to capitalize on and do. But then we've got to think about landscape scale. You know, we were just talking about where in relationship, if we do this here and we don't do it over here, how do we have that greatest impact? A clear cut, maybe break a clear cut, or I think clear cuts are great. I think they're pretty from my perspective because I know exactly I like them. They're deer thickets, they're grouse thickets, they're great nesting habitat for turkeys, you know, but not, change the size of them, create a patchwork. So it's not just vertical structure within the forest, it's also horizontal structure left and right. Um, and so it's probably the best thing I can come. It's a coordinated mosaic of work that needs to be done on the landscape, and it's all going to look different. Um, and so, and then we have to start leaning back into the research that we know works, right? The research that has been done on grouse in the past is still relevant today. We don't always have to have research going on right now. Why don't we start implementing some of the research we've done, use that to guide these decisions, and then let's start thinking about how we get to this science guided implementation. We've got the science. How do we get to this? How do we apply that to the landscape? How do we use that to drive disturbance factors? And then how do we do all of those things while improving structural diversity of the forest? So are we willing to have 100 log trucks roll by versus 10? You know,
Right.
what's our tipping point for this to occur for us to get to scale? And that's And that's not even factoring in some individuals now that have land have lost the connection. There's a generational gap between landowners these days to the
Yep.
land and what they're buying. So they're going, I don't really like that. But, so it's just, I wish there was one simple thing. That was probably way too many things for people to follow, but it's paramount that we do this now
Yeah.
because we are seeing these situations where grouse are, they're listed in these state wildlife action plans of greatest conservation concern within the states. Grouse and woodcock are listed in those, but man, have we turned it into action? Have we no crisis? We should be talking more about what needs to be done. We need more loggers. That supports communities. That supports clean water. That supports jobs. That supports all of the things that people rely on. It supports schools, you know.
Mm.
And man, we need those things in a healthy forest system. Forest management infrastructure can do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Cody and I, decided, and I mentioned this on other podcasts and stuff, and when we decided to tackle this, it was like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to talk about. And it was just black and white in our eyes. Like, just promote logging. Things will be good, right? you know? And then to come to find out, it's like, oh no, wait, that hole's leaking. So you stick a finger on that, and it's like that hole's leaking. Stick a finger in that. Running out of fingers, right? And I'm listening to you talk, and that was well said. And it's like it is just endless what people. It's so complex situation that the ruffed grouse is in, and all young forest wildlife
Mhm.
species. But with that being said, here's another hole, Mark, that needs plugged. You mentioned Ohio a couple times, reference to hunting season and stuff like that. So we have Indiana, now we have Ohio. Now Ohio didn't completely run it,
Mhm.
ruin it, if you will. But as you know, you've been in this management world long enough. The future of wildlife management is legislation. And
Mhm.
there's states out there that's seen Indiana, that's seen Ohio, and it's like, well, how do we, maybe manipulate that and stuff? So what is like, again, not to put you on the spot, like Cody was mentioned earlier, but what role does RGS play with state agencies, stopping? Hopefully, this is not a trend.
Yeah.
Like a New England state, pick a state in New England that might have the same situation as Ohio. There are birds, but it's very low, but there is a huntable population. So how do we solve that? So what RGS's role is it? Are you counting on volunteers, chapters? Are you guys lobbying, having communications with state agencies, forestry association? I mean, again, not
Yeah.
to put you on the spot, but like we got to stop this before it does start leaking more than the forestry aspect of where do we put this timber?
Yeah.
Let's nip it in the butt before it starts to spread like a cancer.
So I love you all putting me on the spot. I mean, I really do. I mean, I'm comfortable with that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say there's a couple of things. One is, you know, first and foremost, we are a membership supported organization by volunteers and members. And the way that we can carry a greater voice organizationally with state wildlife agencies, U.S. Forest Service, others, is for us to have a robust and healthy membership base. But having pure numbers probably isn't as important as having volunteers and members that are going to stand up, share their concerns, represent the conservation ethic, what we're trying to do in a respectful manner, and share their concerns because we just had that occur in Pennsylvania. I mean, there was some conversations around season structure and grouse seasons and small, and our membership stood up and they voiced their concern, and they were vocal about it. And due to the relationship we have with state wildlife agencies, they respect what we share, right? We're utilizing information, we're utilizing data and science, And we're not coming at this in an emotional reaction. We're keeping focus on the resource. And so, this is self-serving or whatever, but membership is important. It gives me voice when I go speak to members of Congress. Gives me voice when I go speak to Senator Justice in West Virginia about stuff that's going on. Like, man, what can we do? How can we do this? They're calling us first. And so they're calling us first because of our ability to have vocal and authentic comments coming from membership. Um, and another thing too, that people may see us like, yes, we are aggressive and then the legislative and a policy piece, but we're also tactical about that. We're not going to be able to comment on every single thing. We're not going to be able to be a part of every single push because sometimes it's better to be silent or work behind the scenes or work in a different manner to get a different result. Or if you know
Hmm.
something's not going to happen, you don't want to use up your credibility or your effort or your resources into things that aren't going to go anywhere. So we are very tactical when we come to do that stuff and strategic. So, um, and then again, at state wildlife agencies, they're at the forefront of this, we're also working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service when it comes to, eastern woodcock and the migration. That's a migratory bird that, they're monitoring the populations and we're trying to leverage them to do some more work. So we are, and I will say this too, for our organization to be as healthy as it can be, we need to have a efficient conservation delivery system for our organization because we have to have results on the ground, impactful, driving results. But that can't be all unto itself. We also need to have a healthy and volunteer member-led event system that is generating dollars for mission investment. And we need to have that being complementary to philanthropic individuals that want to support RGS at transformational levels because there's high trust there and credibility for us to deliver on the ground. So you have to have those three pieces to be a successful organization. And I'll recap those. Efficient conservation delivery or mission delivery team. Got to have robust grassroots membership and event system that is generating revenue for some locals to use and also the national level to use, generating memberships. And then you have to have a robust philanthropic or development department. And we're trending in all three of those in a positive direction.
I've never heard it communicated that way before. It makes sense. It's like the roots underneath. You see the plant on top growing. Just you think it's just rain and sunshine, but those roots underneath are really what feed it, and and make it
Yeah, I
grow and
mean it's
contribute to its health.
membership is important. It's our lifeblood, Um, and honestly, that's an area of focus of mine is try to make sure that we are supporting our membership. We're delivering results. We want them to challenge us, but we also want them to support us.
The
Yeah.
the
So the big question.
philanthropic, I
Go
guess,
ahead.
is the right pronunciation of the word, or the volunteering. I'll make it easier on myself. What does that look like if I wanted to volunteer for RG? What is that habitat implementation? What if I wanted to be a volunteer for RGS to make measurable change, and I were to call you, Mark, to say, hey, I want to do what I can as a volunteer to help the organization. Where would you point me to make sure that I can do good work for your organization?
Well, I think that's going to vary amongst what we can do and where you're at. But one of those is being a part of a local event or a local chapter that is sharing what we're doing with the communities and the cities and towns that we're in. That may be somebody that feels like, man, I can't go out and do the habitat work. Well, can you serve as a treasurer for a local chapter,
Mm.
you know, to help us ensure that we're raising money in an efficient way? Are you good at a computer spreadsheets and you can help. Can you work registration for us at some of these events? Can
Right.
you communicate to local volunteers? So that fundraising event's one piece. Um, can you um, then if you've got an opportunity, you can actually probably go out and do some volunteer habitat work days with us that are working with in conjunction with state wildlife agencies or U.S. Forest Service or other public land management agencies to do cleanups,
Mm.
to plant trees. Some of these small pieces that are putting positive in, a positive interaction for what we're doing. So I think those are two very different ways that you could volunteer within the organization and to help, but both equally as important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe going out and securing donations to events to say, man, local gun shop, local FFL, say,
Mm.
man, would you support us by giving us a door prize tonight? Man, yeah, okay, yeah, that'd be great. Maybe it's just having that, some people are willing to do some things, but they're not willing to do others. And we have to create a culture that it's accepting we're doing it and everybody's got a role.
So with, I mean, volunteers is, volunteers, and I don't, do this professionally, push back a little bit, but it's not really pushing back. It's like, how do we create, you mentioned the word cultural. It's like, how do we get that message out to where someone like what Cody just said, you know, how do they, what am I trying to say? It's, how does that one person reach out to somebody when they don't know that that's what they do? Okay. So it's like, how do we, like, what are we doing to increase membership? What are we doing to let people know, like, hey, there is a state issue. Did you know that there was a state issue in Ohio that the Ruffed Grouse was on the verge of being Indiana? Um, like, are you guys, like the increasing the social media aspect of things, trying to get the message out more to like, hey, start a branch, more volunteering. This is how we do move the
Mhm.
needle. This is how we get things done, grassroots and all that stuff. So,
Yeah,
there's a
so
question in there somewhere, but
no, I understand the question. So I will tell you this, we need to be doing better at that as an
mhm.
organization. We have events that are starting to spring up right now. And so starting to become a busier time of the year for us for fundraising and those events. We need to be more deliberate with our communications about opportunities. Um, we need to also provide support for those that are volunteering, and I think at a greater effort. And so for me to sit here and say, yeah, go do this. Well, status quo's own 50-50. So we need to be doing better of communicating like these are the opportunities. This is what we need help with. Because I think at any one time, we're all focused on this stuff, right? We think about it, we talk about it. We're probably not we're not the typical member of the organization. I mean, you all have taken it upon yourself to do a podcast about this stuff. That's unique
Right.
to most of our members. And so, but the best way you can get somebody to volunteer is to ask them for help and then ask them to do something specific. And we need to be doing better at that to say, man, we need help with this piece. We need to increase our presence on social media, and we're trying to do so where we're looking at both organic and targeted advertising um, strategies to grow our, um, I guess, subscribers, probably for the lack of a better term, but then Facebook, Instagram, and others. And then, um, and we're also trying to think about ways to um, share information through corporate partners, um, the Purinas, the Onyx, others, so people can start to see who we are, and then they go, "Well, what's that about?" Right? But then when they show up to our website, they need to make sure that they can find that information of how to get engaged. So we're looking at all that stuff right now, and we've got some efforts underway to get that improved, but it'll take a little bit of time, but it'll be incremental adjustments and better targeted communications.
Mhm.
It's an important
Yeah.
part of it. I guess you mentioned, the best way to to engage a volunteer is to ask for help. You know, look at Eric and I as your volunteer in the Give for Grouse initiative right now. You have us both on the line. What do you need from us? Ask, what could we do
Well,
to better help you? You know, so when we come to you with an idea, you see value in it. You want to partner with us. You want to collaborate. You want it to, that we can do more meaningful work when we work together. You know, Give for Grouse and RGS more as a marriage. I think we can accomplish more versus two separate entities.
yeah.
What would you like to see
Well,
us do that can help you guys move
well,
your
first of all,
message?
platforms like this, are so important. You know, and so your time and your resources, you all could have asked for anybody to be on here, right? And so we appreciate that. Um, and I would say this is maybe unique, and I learned this from an old mentor of mine, James Earl Kinnemer. You all may know the name, but he was the Turkey, got one of the
God, I
guys.
haven't heard that in a while. Wow.
Yeah, so he hired me at the NWTF. He goes, man, there's going to be things, relationships are important, candid conversations are going to be important, but we need to make sure that we're unified in the public, right? And so let's talk, let's challenge each other, but then also let's be supportive of each other in this effort. Um, there's going to be things that we can do as an organization that you all can't, and there's going to be things that you all can do as your all's entity that we can, and we need to understand those to drive what we're doing. So I think the biggest thing is let's challenge each other, but let's also understand and try to identify where each entity is at, because we have external pressure just like you all do and vice versa. So, but secondly, and this is I'd love to offer up our staff to come on and share specific projects, what we're doing, highlight some of that stuff, and utilize. And how do we share your all's perspectives in with our membership as well? So it's not one sided. I see it as completely complementary. And this is, if you're not a member, we'd love for you all to be a member, right? We'd love for all of your listeners to be members of the organization, because that gives us a greater voice. It gives us greater leverage with partners. It gives us a greater ability to share more information, right? And more credibility.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned in one of our first episodes that, Eric mentioned it's such the grouse problem, the forest management problem, it's so nuanced, and we're trying to come up with this grouse solution stew. We have this big pot and throwing in a dash of RGS, a pinch of Give for Grouse. As long as the end goal for us anyway is meaningful work for Ruffed Grouse across their range and responsible forest management, I think there needs to be consolidation, and that doesn't mean we have to hold hands along the way, but we both need to be on, and that's not saying both you and I, everybody involved, we all need to have the same focused end goal. And sometimes we have to go left and right, but then I guess I'm using my hands. Most people are listening to this, but we can go left and right as long as we come together in the end with the with the
I
end
do
goal.
that too. So, but no, I agree because we need to be strong partners. And I come from my history with NWTF was we're only going to be as strong as our partnerships are. Doesn't mean our partners are just it's one sided. I mean, sometimes it's going to be a give and take. But organizationally with RGS AWS, we need to be partnering with Audubon. We need to be partnering with, American Bird Conservancy, TNC, NWTF, RMF, Give to Grouse. We need to all be sharing information out through our channels, but that information needs to understand that we can have unique roles in this, right? But the end product is a healthy forest in the eastern half of the United States, first and foremost. Then, it's actually a healthy forest everywhere. I mean, there's ruffed grouse in the west, but and we need to be doing that for woodcock. So that's the thing is, man, partnerships are important. Support, from direct support from you guys as far as this time and these efforts. I think are really important. And, let's just talk about stuff. I mean, let's share the news. Let's use these platforms to do that. Hopefully, me being on here is going to allow us to talk about you guys to our membership and say, hey, man, check these guys out. That increases your podcast downloads and the content, which gives you all greater voice. So all of this stuff can be, complementary and build upon one another.
Yeah, there's partnership is so huge, especially in today's world, because name a species, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that'll say no, it's this and that, but name a species that's in a better shape now than it was 20 years ago. Is turkeys in a better shape? No. Is grouse as a
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
white-tailed deer? Look at the white-tailed deer. The good old days of white-tailed deer was maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah. Now we've
Um,
got unprecedented. We're facing more challenges today.
mhm.
We're going to face more challenges tomorrow than we did today.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know,
For what?
and it
Yeah,
compounds every single day.
yeah. And when you have, entities trying to tackle this, whatever species, X, whatever it is, and I always go back and I always butcher it, so I do apologize. But I always go back to Ivan Carter, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's basically wildlife will ultimately be doomed because the other won't allow the other person to take credit for it. And as a great conservationist as he is, I mean, he has exposure to that, and that trickles down to us. Where again, it goes back to name a species that's not have some type of issue today than it did 20 years ago, and now it's so crucial that we do partner with people that we're not comfortable with,
Yeah,
non-consumptive people,
100%. I mean, it's
and,
about
and
forest
all
health.
that stuff. Yeah. So, and it's like we have this billboard, and if it would be absolutely fantastic, we are so close to closing that door on the fundraising aspect of it. If you guys could share that, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, hey, share this. It's promoting logging. It's promoting healthy forests. It's promoting healthy populations of wildlife. Let's knock this out. And whatever you guys do, like you said, it has to be reciprocal at the same time. Like, hey, what do you guys need? Like Cody asked, what do you guys need? Let's do it. Let's rock.
Yeah.
Let's rock and roll.
I would say
And what
just
have you.
probably the thing I can boil it down to is just amplification of our voice, through
Mm,
your all's platforms
yeah.
here. Um, we've got to, I mean, we got so many challenges, but we've got so many opportunities. I mean,
Yes.
it's just,
Yes. It is. It's exciting. It is
yeah, I
really
mean,
exciting.
and I hope that's coming across in my voice is like, man, I am excited to,
Hmm.
to do this. I mean, I feel like it's, I'm probably the quintessential grouse conservationist, right? I've never killed a grouse. I admit it. I've hunted grouse. I've never killed a grouse because I don't live where grouse are at.
Yeah.
But man, I just love it. I mean, I just love let's focus on the resource. I don't care who comes to the table. Let's take our hats off. Let's, I don't care about credit. I mean, I
Yes.
really don't. I'll care about results. I mean, it's
Mm.
just,
Preach it.
let's do the work. Let's get it done. And I don't care if somebody wants to come in and we do work. I've done a tremendous amount of work on gopher tortoises and indigo snakes and red cockaded
Go for
woodpecker.
tortoises.
I
I've
mean,
never heard of that. That's awesome.
because their same habitat need coincided with what turkeys needed.
Hmm.
So, hey, if there's somebody who wants to do gopher tortoise work, let's do it. If somebody wants to do golden ring warbler work across Appalachia, let's do it. What
Yeah.
about whippoorwill work? What about
Hmm.
an aquatic species that needs healthy streamside restoration corridors? Man, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's just let's have the results. Let's have a healthy forest, and man, I want you know
No, you
that's
can hear it in your voice, Mark. You're killing it. I mean, if you don't have passion, why do it? You've been
yeah.
in this like with the turkeys. You've done that for so long, and restoring in Mexico the ghouls population and all this stuff, and bringing those birds to the U.S. and trapping and all that stuff. And I know personally what it takes to do all that. And because I was a part of it in Ohio, restoring the population in Ohio,
Yeah,
getting up
which
at
is
3 o'clock
awesome.
in
I
the
mean,
morning. doing it not because of the pay, because the pay was crap, because I wanted to see turkeys in every county in this state of Ohio. And I will get up at 3. Those are the passion. That's what we need
Yeah.
out there. And I'm glad. I'm glad they got you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm excited. I mean, in these things, again, we've got challenges. We can always do better, right? We should always be holding ourselves up to better standards and higher standards, but we've got, like I said, I mentioned the membership appeal that we've got going on. We've got a unique partnership right now with the Aldo Leopold Foundation. And with every membership we're selling here is getting a copy of the Sand County Almanac. Um, they're getting for us to talk about the conservation ethic, the why we're doing things. So that's a great opportunity, rough.org. Go to that, sign up. You get award-winning magazines that talk about what we're doing, why we're doing it, where we're doing work. But man, those are every little bit piece, everything counts. And I'll tell you right now where we are as an organization is we have so many opportunities and our scale increased so much on conservation delivery that we ran out our, we kicked our coverage a little bit. Now we're getting our customer relations management down. We're getting better systems within our financial pieces. So we are laying the foundation, the roots, Cody, as you said, so we can make sure we can hammer when this money comes along, when these projects come along, we can be efficient, we can be responsive to our memberships, and we can be appealing to donors.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
Good stuff. Asked you in the beginning, Mark, to give us a 1 to 10 scale of where grouse are at now. And you provided an honest answer. I hope you're honest with your answer in this next question. Honest and realistic. But what's your, from your position right now, 5, 10 years, what's the prognosis for ruffed grouse in Appalachia based on, what the work you guys are doing?
So the question is, what's the prognosis for grouse in Appalachia in the next 10 years?
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
Whew.
That's a tough question.
Well, it is because it's kind of open-ended. Are you optimistic?
6.5. I'm going to
Yeah, no, exactly. You can't really put a number to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, share your personal thoughts. Are you optimistic? Because, I am, you meant grouse habitat. I was on a piece of property. It was a nature conservancy property this morning, walking it, listening for grouse, and it's just gorgeous. And I think, here in a few weeks when they really start drumming, they'll be all over the place. I heard one flushed another in a quick walk this morning. So I think where there's habitat, they do well. I mean, it's as we said, it's a nuanced problem, which it absolutely is. But on the other side of the coin, it's so very simple. We just have to create habitat at landscape scale. Simple, but also complicated.
Oh yeah, it's simple.
But
right?
I'm optimistic. I think if we can move the needle, if we can educate, if we can implement habitat, is it going to be what it was in the 80s? And that's where the realistic, approach comes into play. But I'm optimistic. We just have work to do.
Yeah. So when it comes to the population numbers, that's where I don't know. But I'll come back to that. But what I can say is I am a staunch optimist. I mean, I'm an optimistic person. I mean, that's just how I'm wired. My wife gets angry with me because I'm always looking on the bright side of things at times.
Right.
And, even when there's challenges or whatever, but I'm optimistic. But I am optimistic, and I know with high confidence, more people are going to know about grouse. We're going to have a stronger, more robust membership of the organization. We will make sure that agencies are aware of the needs of grouse and woodcock, and that we are going to be a driving force for conservation work in Appalachia and beyond. I can tell you that because that's what my career has been previously, and I feel like I can replicate that here because of the team and the staff we have. When it comes to the population response, I'm unclear because there are so many other things that can potentially impact the population that I can tell you what we're going to do, but I can't tell you what the response can be.
Right.
Because Yeah,
That's an honest
it's
answer. I mean, I
No,
appreciate
you
it.
know,
let me interrupt you for a second. That's actually a pretty damn good answer because we can only do what we can do, and we have to sit back and see the response of that, what we've done. And Cody and I have said, we know more now about wildlife than ever before, the management of it,
Mhm.
and that excites me. We are conservationists through and through, and we are the greatest success story in history when it comes to conservation. The North American model, right? I mean, we can get things done. Look what we did for Canada geese. Look what we did for pronghorn antelope, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And it's like we need a reawakening, not a re introduction of reimagining, if you will, but it's just like a reintroduction of who we truly are when it comes to conservation. We look what we've done, jumping all over the place. Look what we did with controlled burning, how we made that acceptable. I know in Ohio, when we started controlled burning, the fire department, whether you called or not, was there at the burn because people were freaking out. Now people they're waiting for the smoke so they can burn. you know,
Yeah.
look what we did in the Midwest and other parts now down south that, you guys grew up with a drip torch in your hand. But it's just, up here, it's burning wasn't acceptable. It is. It really is. Because
Yeah.
why? We kept at it. You kept at it. You kept at it. You kept at it. And I think with forest ecology, we're just at the beginning stages of this. We're introducing people to this and we expect them to do what? Accept it? No, we need to educate. We need to do that. We need to tell our story. Like, again, we are the greatest conservation storytellers, but we don't share.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough, but I've seen where we've done really great work and then you get 2 or 3 bad years of weather. You can't control that, right? You can only create the habitat that can be on the landscape to accommodate populations when they have the correct, I guess, variables in
Mm.
place, you know, but what we can do and what we can control is we are going to be the advocate for grouse with partners such as yourself. We're going to be driving efforts and engaging state wildlife agencies to ensure what they are doing includes grouse and woodcock management. We're going to communicate and partner with federal agencies, Natural Resource Conservation Service, USDA, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, to ensure that they are considering grouse and woodcock in their plans and their efforts to restore forests and restore ecosystems. So that I'm confident that we can do. So that's where I'm internally optimistic. When it comes to what the population response is, there's so many variables we can't control as an organization, but we can do everything we can to take advantage of those when those variables align to rebound populations or to have bumps in a population when we can.
Lighten the mood up a little bit, switching gears here. What is one of your, since you've been in your position so far with RGS, I know it's only been just a little over 6 months. What can you name one thing that you can sit back already and just with a smile go, all right, like we're doing this now. Can you pick
Something
something,
that's changed or something that I've seen.
whatever you want it to be?
So the one thing that I'm been totally impressed with, there's two. One of those is the dedication of our members and our volunteers. Those guys, the longevity, they grind, they want to see stuff done, and they're going to work and they're going to represent us to the nth degree and hunters with the conservation ethic. So the persona and the dedication of our volunteers and members has blown me away. The other piece to this, and there's probably more than two, but I'll probably get to the third one, is our staff have got such an entrepreneurial mindset. Man, I mean, we have 80 over 80 different agreements around the country that are doing conservation work. Over 80 for
That's awesome.
millions of dollars on the ground of on the ground work doing stuff. So the entrepreneurial mindset has been really impressive as well. Um, and so those two things there, are have been every volunteer I've spoken with, they've been candid with me of what they don't like, things we need to fix, which I love. But they're also willing to work with us to get it right.
Hmm. Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say just meeting us, but that's fine. We'll
Well, I
go with
mean, I didn't. I mean, I've been in this game too
hey,
long
whatever,
to know
Mark.
not to. Well, but no, I think it's so funny because I was at a friend's wedding. A friend's wedding, his daughter got married on Saturday. I'm in Edgefield, South Carolina, the home of the NWTF.
Hmm.
Is where the national office was or is. And I was at the wedding. He goes, "Who are you with now?" And he said, "Oh yeah, he's a contractor." He goes, "I just got a bid for some work you all are doing in Georgia. I'm gonna bid on that to do some work." So that was like, okay, that's pretty neat. But then
Yeah.
also the pure number of people that I've spoken to, even in the turkey world, friends, and they're like, "Oh man, I go to Maine every year to grouse hunt, or I go here to grouse hunt, or I would." And it's like, damn, it never came up. So we have a huge network of grouse hunters and and woodcock hunters that I never knew about, and that's been pretty cool. Like I'm going to
Hmm.
a Mexican restaurant in Johnston, South Carolina, and I walk in with this hat on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, grouse and woodcock," and I'm like, "I've known you for 20 years, and you've never mentioned them."
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
You
that's
know,
funny.
and so
Yeah,
that's been pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
That's
Well,
cool.
good
I'm
deal, man.
kind of piggyback on Eric's question a little bit, maybe just in the positive sense. It's a question we ask all of our guests. Certainly, a little kind of put you on the spot again, but certainly with a little bit of a lighter tone, Mark. But what is your most meaningful and special memory with the rough grouse?
Or woodcock in his case too. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll widen the net a bit for
Well,
woodcock or both.
yeah, so I'm gonna do the rough grouse. It was my first semester of dendrology class at Murray
Yes.
State, and we took a trip to we took a trip to the Smokies. So this would have been 1996. We took a trip to the Smokies for a dendrology class to learn the eastern deciduous trees of um, Smoky Mountain region. And it was the first time I'd ever heard a grouse drum.
Mm.
And so that was my second semester in undergraduate school. And I just remember, I mean, I could probably take you back to the spot that I heard it.
Most people
So
can.
that was pretty cool. And I never heard it. So I grew up in Central Kentucky. We didn't have grouse in Central Kentucky where I was at. There was always this management area over in Eastern Kentucky that you could grouse hunt on, um, and so that would be um, went to Murray and like I said, I didn't know grouse, so that was kind of cool to be able to experience that standing there like it was dendrology class. We were on a school field trip, so that would probably be it.
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure. Especially in the
That
Excellent.
would have
Smoky
been
Mountains
1990. It
too.
would have been the spring of 1996.
Yeah. We're about the same age, Mark. We're getting old. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was
so that
finishing
was
up
it
in
was spring of
college.
'96 when I went to school, and it was we spent a spring break in the Smokies on a dendrology class. So
Mhm.
I just remember that drumming grouse.
That's cool.
There you
The
go.
Drummond grouse in the Smoky Mountains, I tell you, doesn't get much more Appalachian than that. That's
Yeah.
a sweet story, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, darn.
Oh,
Just
shoot.
you can hear it obviously, and then if you just close your mind's eye, you can imagine the visual.
Yeah, I mean, you
Just
can still feel it. I mean,
oh yeah.
but I remember that. That was my first encounter with the grouse.
I tell you what, I mean, yeah, we usually wrap it up the episode with that question. I don't want to circle back too far, but if you could, Eric and I say this a lot. If you could put somebody in front of a Drummond ruffed grouse during the spring, then they would do
Mm.
everything they could to protect the species. And the property I was on today is young forest in every sense of the word. It's just about to explode with life, with the azaleas, the rhododendron, the mountain laurel. You can, and I heard one drumming this morning. If you could take them to where I was this morning, and they could have that visual, the visual beauty of a young forest, and there's songbirds singing that I'm not even going to pretend to know the names of, and then you hear a ruffed grouse drumming over to your right, and then you hear a turkey gobble over to your left, and then you hear the whippoorwills slowly start
I
to
mean,
fade
it's
as the sun comes up. I mean, we'd be cutting every stick of timber we could, but
yeah,
that is something collectively the three of us will work to accomplish.
yeah, we're get there,
Yeah,
but I'm
amen.
optimistic, and again, I appreciate this, and I do want to thank our members and volunteers, thank our board of directors, our partners, the numerous corporate partners we've got around the country as well for the support. Um, and I would encourage everybody to go check out roughgrousesociety.org. And I would encourage everybody to give to you guys and donate to you guys if that's where they feel like that's the best use of their funds are, then to go do that. And also would encourage everybody to go to roughed.org to check out the latest membership appeal, check out our award-winning magazine, get you a copy of the Sand County Almanac, sit down and read that, and support the organization because we're going to do great things. I know we're going to do great things, and it's going to be fun. And on the Leopold piece, Leopold was a grouse hunter.
Mm,
Leopold thought there were hunters and then there were grouse hunters, that they were two different people. And so Leopold, that we're excited about that partnership with the Aldo Leopold Foundation. He's a true conservationist, and we encourage everybody, and we hope our members know who Leopold is and can take the time to reflect on why are they getting up in the morning to chase grouse or to track down their bird dog that's gone two ridges over or something.
right.
Man, let's have fun with it. And I keep telling our staff, it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Mark, for coming on, taking the time, and yeah, let's get some stuff done, right?
Yep,
Let's
we are, man.
things, but
We're getting a lot of stuff done. We're going to start telling that story in a more deliberate manner. And man, let's have, it's going to be fun.
yeah.
I like it.
Oh no, yeah. It's funny. It's like, well, why does it have to be fun? No, when it's fun and when when you're getting stuff done, man, you work. You want to work harder. Obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Fun,
want to
fun doesn't
be.
mean it's easy. It's just, man,
No,
we're going to have fun with it.
Oh yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, well, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
Mark,
both.
appreciate your time.
Been a pleasure and looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you again. Well, we mentioned in the intro that we wanted to avoid an episode where it felt like we were just going through the motions. I feel like if you were to interview half a dozen RGS employees and ask them these basic questions, you'd get basic answers. You and I talked before the episode. We wanted to put Mark on the spot and ask him, we hope, were some tough questions. Not to put him on the spot, but we wanted to ask tough questions to get honest answers.
Yes.
And authentic answers, and answers
Yeah.
that make you think and challenge your mind a little bit. And I feel like that we did that. We were pretty honest. We're like, Mark, going to put you on the spot with this one. And he appreciated it, which I was glad that he was receptive to those type of questions. And as a result, I think the episode was genuine and authentic and what we wanted it to be, which was, not a cookie cutter type of deal.
hmm Yeah, I think with his, being able to see him and his reaction to the questions, um, to answer some of those questions, just not knowing what the questions are. I mean, he didn't hem haw. He was
Mm-hmm.
direct. Um, and we're our knowledge of Mark is very young, and hopefully we build a good future, a good relationship for the future with Mark and RGS. But I think RGS, landed a good one. I mean, his
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and stuff and the experience with NWTF and what have you, he has a lot of passion. I mean, there for a while, it was preaching. I loved it,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm sure we'll get more out of Mark as he gets to know us and our viewership or listen. The people that listen to us appreciate that passion and let your hair down a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
But yes, but no, I enjoyed it. It was great. I think he did a great job answering some very tough questions. He didn't
Yeah.
circle around and stuff like that and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we even pushed back on some of the answers and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I've shared with you conservation organizations. All of them. This isn't exclusive to RGS. I just feel like they're in a no-win. They can be in a no-win situation because you can never please all of
yeah,
your membership base or
hmm,
everybody. If you, you know, Mark mentioned 500,000 acres of habitat implementation. Somebody's out there is going to be like, well, why not a million? It's like, what?
yeah,
We can.
yeah.
They've only got
Only
so
80
many.
projects going on. Come on
Yeah.
now, right?
So I think it's always important to prop up those conservation organizations and support them by whatever means you can. And Mark highlighted that, if you want to volunteer, be a member if you can, habitat if you can, um, be a treasurer, do a spreadsheet, whatever you can to help them, because at the end of the day, they are a nonprofit. They only have so much manpower, so many
Yeah,
dollars in the bank. They just like us, they need some help.
yeah. To piggyback on what you said was with nonprofits, they all start out with this great intention and they do great, and then they get this point. It's not they don't hit a ceiling. It just there's this point. It seems like not all of them, obviously, but some they hit this point,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when like maybe membership starts to grumble and all this stuff, and they need awake, just to wake up a little bit. And I think our Rough Grouse Society with Mark is, listening to the membership, listening to their pros and cons, pros and cons of what they're seeing out there. And they just, all people want is just to be able to be heard,
Yeah.
and taking what they're saying, not just Charlie Brown's teacher, want, but actually listening to them. But at the same time, when you do criticize or when you do show some frustration, you got to say it. You got to remember, yelling doesn't get you anywhere. Complaining doesn't get you anywhere. Just be professional about it. When people
Mm-hmm.
are calm and professional, that's when you're heard. So the membership, you have every right to complain and hoot and holler why they're not doing this, not why they're not doing that. But they're but they do need always like, hey, why are you guys doing this? How come you're not doing that? But do it in such a manner that you would want to be told,
Yeah.
so that way that it does get fixed. Not that there's a problem or there is a problem, so, but yeah, it's easy to criticize. I do
Mm-hmm.
it. You do it, whatever. More you than me, of course, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so no, Mark did a great job. Actually, yeah, those are some tough questions. At least in our opinion. I don't know. I guess we
Yeah.
could have went down a different rabbit hole, tougher. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but that's for another day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, truly, I mean, he mentioned 500,000 acres of habitat. And, me being so into the habitat for grouse, he mentioned 500,000 acres. I would have loved to nitpick and learn the specifics of those different habitat projects. As far as clear cutting and invasive species control. So, but yeah, that's an entirely different episode. I thought it was a great conversation. Hopefully, our listeners learned a little something, and hopefully, this episode is helpful to Mark and RGS's mission.
Yeah, I think, yeah, time will tell. We'll see what happens. But yeah, as Mark mentioned there at the end, go to the website, go to our website,
We don't
and
have a website.
I'm sorry, you
Go
might
to our
want to edit that
Instagram.
part out. How come we don't have a website, Cody?
I
Why
don't
don't
know.
we have a website?
We'll get there one day.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah,
People are
go
going to be on
our website.
giftforgrouse.com.
Yeah,
Say,
yeah,
network connectivity problem.
yeah. Patent pending. Anyway, waiting on a trademark on that one. But no, go to Rough Grouse. Just type in Rough Grouse Society on the old computer and see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I go to it quite a bit and learn little fun facts and just some really cool stuff. And leaning on social media all the time, that's not the right thing to do to educate yourself. That's social media. Just because they don't post something doesn't mean they're not being active. So going into the website and actually doing your homework, before you do criticize. Like, I didn't know that they were working on 80 different types of projects. My gosh, that's insanity.
Yeah.
And 500,000 acres of habitat. But again, you count on social media and social media alone, you don't learn things.
That's right.
So, but no, go support the Rough Grouse Society, become a member, do what you can with what you have where you are. At least share their stuff if you don't want to do any of that,
Really.
Yeah, just share it on social and stuff. Help them get the message out, help us get our message out, and what have you. Go to I'm sorry, Cody, what's the website? I'm having a brain fart about the billboard.
Habitatva.org.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I was trying to think of something pretty witty.
Yeah, don't be witty. Just stop.
Yeah. I was trying to think of something.
Yeah. Go
Give to
to the
Cody or
website
something.
and donate to our cause and stuff. And I'll just stop there because I'm just completely a jungled mess now. So as my grandpa always used to say, no hurry, no worry,